Hi everyone, how's it going? It's been a while since I made a video. I think my last video was somewhere around the end of December, and we went down to Tampa to visit my mom and my brother and my aunt and my niece and nephew between Christmas and New Year's. And the day we were leaving town, I started to get this horrible pain in my back and kind of radiating through my front. And I thought at the time it was maybe just like gas pain or something I ate wasn't moving through. But I really wanted to get down and see my family, so we drove down, and the pain persisted for like 2 or 3 days. And as soon as we got back in town, I went straight to the ER, and it turned out I had a kidney stone, big one, 7 millimeters, about a quarter of an inch. It just wasn't moving, just below my kidney, between my kidney and my bladder, but it's just below the kidney and hadn't moved. But it was the weekend, New Year's Eve weekend, and so they told me they could admit me to the hospital, but they wouldn't be able to do anything until Tuesday, because most of the doctors had Monday off. So they loaded me up on painkillers and stuff and sent me home for the weekend, and then went back on Tuesday and had a procedure done where they tried to go in with a scope, camera, and a laser and find the stone and zap it with the laser and try to break it up in half. But when they got up there with the scope, the stone popped back in my kidney, and they couldn't get to it with the laser. And so that's about all they could do then, and they sent me home. And luckily that solved the pain problem, because the stone was out of the the little tube there between my kidney and my bladder. But then at the end of the week, I went back to a different surgery center, and they did lithotripsy, where they kind of blast it with, I guess, sound waves or some kind of shock waves to try to break up the stone in the kidney. But that didn't do a whole lot of good. I passed some just little tiny stones, about a millimeter, nothing big. But the pain, the whole thing, the pain's resolved because the stone is back in the kidney. So it's kind of a time bomb waiting to strike again at some point in the future. So that was interesting. I'd never had any kind of problem like that. Never had any medical problems hardly in my life. Kind of sucks, you know. All of a sudden I felt like I went from 45 to 65 in a very short span of time. And then I noticed the week after I had this lithotripsy thing, I started to feel a lot of kind of pain and stiffness in my left leg, and I thought maybe, in the procedure they had me sedated unconscious, and I thought maybe in moving me around they kind of twisted my muscles up or something. So I'm trying to walk it off, but after like a week, the pain is still there, and I notice my calf is swelling up. And so I show my wife, she's a nurse practitioner, and she says, "I think you got a blood clot in your leg. You probably need to go to the ER." And the next morning I go to see my urologist who's taking care of my kidney stuff for a follow-up. And he says the same thing. He said, "I'm 90% sure you got a blood clot. You need to go to the ER right away, because that could break loose and get in your lung, and if that's the case, then it could kill you." So I went to the ER right after I saw the urologist, and sure enough, I have a blood clot in my left leg. And so they put me on some medicine to stabilize the clot. Started out with these shots. Had to get these shots in the belly, one in the morning and one at night. Luckily my wife, she can give shots, so she was good enough to give me the shot in the belly. I tried to do it myself, and kind of hesitated with the needle up against my skin. I just couldn't do it, but she was nice enough to do it for me. So I was on those for about a week, and now I'm on a pill I'll take for about 6 months, and hopefully clear up this clot. So yeah, just kind of a crappy way to start the new year, but not going to stop me from hunting for vinyl. I managed to make a few trips out during my recovery, kind of in the process of recovering all this crap. And there are a few things I picked up, I think, before the whole thing started, before I went down to Tampa. So I'm just going to try to go through real quick, just some of the vinyl and stuff, CDs I've picked up recently. So, Second and Charles, the local kind of book and record, CD and movie store here in town. I think the last video I made was a bunch of stuff I grabbed from the free bin there, and a few records, jazz records I bought inside for really cheap. Picked up a few more there maybe a week later, I think these are mostly about $4 a piece. Got a Coleman Hawkins double LP set on Prestige, I believe. Yeah, on Prestige. Got some nice early recordings by Coleman Hawkins here from, I guess not too early, late 50s. And some Paul Desmond, sax player from Dave Brubeck's band. This one on CTI from the Hot Afternoon. Actually, it's on A&M. Creed Taylor, when he was still associated with A&M before it just became the label CTI. So nice, got that nice gatefold. Yeah, this one's pretty good. It's got the strings and everything, the full Creed Taylor string section treatment, but Ron Carter on bass, Airto Moreira on drums. Yeah, some good players on this. And another one, like I said, I think these are maybe like $4 a piece. Thelonious Monk, Misterioso, recorded on tour. This one in Columbia. Stereo pressing with Charlie Rouse on tenor sax, Ben Riley on drums, Larry Gales on bass. I think they had this like in the R&B section or rap section or something. You know, it didn't say Thelonious Monk, so they're probably like, who is Monk? I think he's a rapper. The store is crazy. And then from the dollar bin there at Second Charles, Artie Shaw, got some old time jazz. I got some of his other stuff, Artie Shaw and the Gramercy 5. Starting to get into kind of more modern jazz, but I think these are earlier recordings. This is a compilation of RCA on a, it's like a kind of custom label on RCA Pair, P-A-I-R. Couldn't really find this in Discogs listed, but figured I'd give it a shot. But one of the main reasons I picked it up, it's that both of the records are in these nice disc washer inner sleeves. Someone did a nice job protecting the records here, but I figure for $1, even if the music's not really my thing, I'll keep the sleeves and reuse them. The records are in really nice, clean shape. And so that was Second and Charles, and then the Goodwill in town, the big one that I go to quite often. They had someone donated a bunch of country records, and I don't normally pick up country, but kind of some of the older stuff kind of intrigues me. So I picked up some Hank Williams, this one at MGM, Hank Williams Memorial Album. So it's got some of his classics here, Your Cheating Heart, yeah, I don't know all these tracks. Yeah, not real familiar with Hank Williams. Here's another one, MGM, Let Me Sing a Blue Song. I figured I'd give it a shot. These were, I think I bought 10 records. It's 10 records for $2, I think. Some compilations here, the great hits of Hank Williams. 2 record set on, I guess, MGM. And actually bought 2 copies of this. This one's got a slightly different cover, just to see which one's in better shape. Which one was an earlier pressing. Johnny Cash, The Holy Land. I don't know about this record, but it's got kind of an interesting little, kind of that 3D, I can't remember what they call this. Little 3D plastic gimmicky kind of photo there on the cover. Bob Wills, I've heard of Bob Wills before. He had a band, the Texas Playboys. I've got a record from the guy who played the steel guitar in that band. But there's a nice compilation on Columbia and some of his old recordings. And then another one, this is Remembering the Greatest Hits of Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys. And at the same time, not really country, but it's the legendary Christine Perfect album by Christine McVie from Fleetwood Mac. I've seen this before, I think on Facebook, on the YouTube Facebook page. Figured I'd give it a shot. So yeah, that was Goodwill. And then, let's see, bouncing around here, the hospice thrift store in town. I went there one day and they didn't have any good records or CDs or anything, but looking through the books I found an interesting book. It's the Pictorial History of Jazz by Orrin Keepnews and Bill Grauer Jr. People and Places from New Orleans to Modern Jazz. And by modern jazz, I think they're talking about the late 50s here. Or no, originally published in 1955, so that's as far as they get as far as modern jazz. But a really nice book, lots of photographs of old New Orleans style jazz, things like that. So a really good visual history of the different players and bands and things like that. And of course, Orrin Keepnews and Bill Grauer, I think, were associated with Riverside Records. I could be wrong, but some of the early jazz labels. And then let's see, where was this from? I think these were also from Goodwill on a different trip. Kind of some late 50s. There was a whole bunch of records in there from like the late 50s, early 60s, and a lot of them were water damaged, unfortunately. But I picked up some of the ones that are in better shape. Some, we got Duane Eddy, Especially for You. Duane Eddy, his twangy guitar and the Rebels. This one on the Jamie label. That's kind of cool. Some twangy guitar there. I like guitar records. Chet Atkins, Al Caiola, Tony Mottola, all that kind of stuff. The Ventures. Kind of along the same lines. Kind of like a... It's hard to explain. This band, Johnny and the Hurricanes. This one called Stormsville. Yeah, kind of an instrumental jam band. Sax, organ, guitar, bass, and drums. Cool stuff. Really interesting stuff. I don't think they were around for too long in the original band, although I think it was the sax player carried on with the band well into the 2000s with changing lineup of personnel and touring and stuff. These are on Warwick Records. This other one here, Johnny and the Hurricanes, featuring Red River Rock. Dig that cover. Different colors and stuff, and the old bus there. One of these has just an awful nasty looking pressing. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to make it out on the video here, but it's got all kinds of little kind of almost like bubbles in the vinyl. But strangely, when you play it in the tracks, it sounds alright, but when you get in the dead space between the tracks, then you hear all the pops and clicks from those pressing irregularities. But fun stuff to listen to. And then trip back to 2nd and Charles later, picked up a couple records there in the jazz section. Some more Oscar Peterson piano jazz here. This is Oscar Peterson solo album called Tracks from the MPS label. This one put out by BASF. I think a US pressing here. And then one from the Pablo label, the Ray Bryant Trio All Blues. Pretty good stuff. And let's see, moving on back to the this one from another later visit to the hospice thrift store. This one kind of caught my eye just because of the cover art. Kind of cool looking cover art there. Kind of pop art looking thing. And of course Henry Mancini's name. And when I flipped around the back, I hadn't ever heard of Artie Kane before. But when I looked on the back, he's got Ray Brown on bass and Shelly Manne on drums. And this guy, Artie Kane, is playing, I guess, piano and organ on this. And then there's some kind of vocal stuff from the Swingers 5. Looked them up on Discogs, and this is the only thing that I have them credited on, but kind of like wordless vocals, kind of like the doo-wop kind of stuff. But it's actually really good. Glad I picked this up. kind of swinging, soundtracky jazz kind of stuff. Instrumental, really. The vocals aren't really like lyrical vocals, just kind of jazzy vocals. Chet Atkins, Teensville, Living Stereo. I like to pick up this Living Stereo stuff if it's kind of swinging stuff. Any Living Stereo pressing from RCA. This one I didn't have. And another guitar one, this one, Tony Mottola from the Project 3 label. There's Command Records, and then after Command Records, Project 3, another Enoch Light label. But this one's really nice. Close to You, Guitar for Lovers it's called. Nice gatefold record here, but it's very kind of laid back, jazzy playing, I guess. I think he's got Dick Hyman on organ on this. And I don't remember who else, but a really good one by Tony Mottola. And let's see. Then from a visit to the the animal place, yeah, Humane Society. Jazz Comp on Atlantic. This one called Sound Waves. And you can't really tell much from the cover, but it's from I think the early to mid 70s, 75. So you've got Stanley Clarke, Billy Cobham, Eddie Harris, Herbie Mann, Les McCann, Passport, Rahsaan, Roland Kirk, Yusef Lateef, Modern Jazz Quartet, and Keith Jarrett. So a pretty good lineup of musicians, kind of sort of in the late fusion era, I guess. But nice white label promo pressing. Really nice sound quality on this. And I think these were $1 a piece. And from the Muse label, the Muse Jazz label, so you got the sax player Eric Kloss with Barry Miles on keys. This one's alright. Eric Kloss on alto and tenor sax, Barry Miles on piano, electric piano, and synthesizer. I saw a synthesizer, I'm like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I think Eric Kloss was blind. That's why he's got the dark sunglasses on there. I know he put out some stuff on the Prestige label before this. I think this is my first record I bought on the Muse label. I haven't been real impressed by much of the stuff I've seen on the Muse label, but this one seemed intriguing. And then another one from the Humane Society, Daryl Way with Opus 20, a record called The Human Condition. Daryl Way was a, I guess, electric violin player. He'd been with Curved Air, the band Curved Air. And so here he's backed up by a like a string ensemble, playing some compositions he did. But this is a, let's see, on Virgin Venture, the Virgin Venture label. So you got a nice black plastic inner sleeve that'll pick up all your greasy fingerprints forever. There you can see the Virgin Venture label. I'm familiar with the label. The producer and bass player Bill Laswell, I collect a ton of his stuff. He put out a record on the label, and part of the reason I bought this is it came with this little kind of little catalog insert sort of thing here that lists the different releases on the label. And so you got like David Sylvian and Holger Juke from Can, Plight and Premonition. I've got that one on vinyl. There's a Klaus Schulze release down there. What else we got? Rodelius from Cluster had an album on the label, and Bill Laswell's Hear No Evil. One of these days I like to pick that one up on vinyl. I've got a couple versions on CD, so kind of cool. The music on this is it's interesting. It's not something I listen to a lot, but it was worth $1. Went back a couple days later and picked up a couple more records I'd seen in the stacks. I wasn't sure about, but haven't had a whole lot of luck finding interesting stuff lately, so I picked these up. Howard Jones Action Replay. I think there's like a little compilation here. So you got No One Is to Blame, and some other tracks I'm not really familiar with, but this is a nice gold stamp promo here. Really nice shape. It's actually a white label promo. I've got a few things by Howard Jones. But I like that era, Howard Jones, Thomas Dolby, kind of that synth 80s stuff going on, synth pop. And this one, I already had a copy of this, but it's pretty beat up. It's kind of cheesy, but I do like it. Giuffria, kind of more of a metal hard rock band featuring Greg Giuffria, who'd been in the band Angel. But some good players on here. Chuck Wright on bass. He's been in some different metal bands. Craig Goldie, he ended up with Dio, I think, after this. And singer David Glenn Isley, really strong voice. Yeah, interesting stuff. Hard rock, but with some cool kind of almost prog-ish keyboards at times. So a really nice copy, nice promo copy. And getting up to the current time, today I picked up, stopped at the other Goodwill in town, kind of on the other side of town from where I lived, and picked up 3 records for $1. Tony Mottola, the guitar player, I showed one of his a little bit ago. This is an album called Mr. Big. I've actually got a really nice copy of the record without the sleeve. I didn't have the sleeve. So I really bought this just for the sleeve, even though it's a little beat up, but just to have the sleeve. This one on the Command label, Enoch Lights Command label. So it's kind of like soundtracky spy music, I think. And another Living Stereo record. Like I say, I like to pick these up if it's something interesting or swinging jazz or something. This one, classical Arthur Fiedler and the Boston Pops, called Boston Tea Party. So you got some interesting stuff. The theme from Picnic, Hernando's Hideaway. Some interesting stuff. And this one's kind of interesting. RCA Victor, was it Enrico Caruso, I think is his name? The opera singer. These are some old historic recordings from the early 1900s, around 1907, 1909, 1911, 1916. Re-released, I think this is from 1955. So it's not something I'm going to listen to a lot, but I just wanted to pick it up just to kind of hear it, because I'm never going to have a wax cylinder collection and find the original recordings or anything, so pretty cool. And there were 3 for $1, so I had to kind of find 3 to make it worthwhile. So that's the records, and then picked up some CDs. I picked this one up from the Hospice thrift store, Deep Purple, made in Japan. Great record. Yeah, I just grabbed it on CD for $1 to have something to listen to in the car driving around. It's got a some rot. I don't know if you can see it. There's a little tiny pinhole. Or not tiny, but anyway, thought when I noticed it after I bought it, I'm like, oh, that's going to cause problems. But playing the CD, I've never heard where that hole is. It never seemed to cause a problem, which is really weird. And it's actually in the recorded section of the CD. It's not really in the blank space of the CD, so I don't. Really weird. I thought for sure that would cause digital havoc. Back to the Humane Society, they've got a ton of CDs there, and someone had donated a whole bunch of like kind of hard rock, heavy metal, and even some prog stuff. And so I bought a bunch of CDs, and one day they actually had their music for half off, 50% off. So I bought quite a few CDs there. Picked up Gary Moore, guitar player from Thin Lizzy. Had his own band, hard rock player. This is one of his later recordings, A Different Beat. I was a huge fan of Gary Moore, and then he kind of got into the blues stuff, and I kind of lost track of what he was doing. But this one's interesting. He kind of brings in like a techno beat kind of background, and you know, plays kind of some hard bluesy rockish guitar over top, and it sounds kind of like a cheesy concept, but it actually works quite well. I was very impressed with this. Judas Priest Metalworks 72 to 93, I think it says. 73 to 93, double CD set. Picked up for $1. Stratovarius, Finnish heavy metal band, or I guess progressive metal band they might call it. But I know the band because the keyboard player Jens Johansson, he'd been in Yngwie Malmsteen's band and played with Jonas Hellborg, kind of a Swedish jazz bass player. Recorded some stuff with Alan Holdsworth, guitar player. Really interesting keyboard player. Megadeth, So Far So Good So What. This is some kind of sort of remixed, or there's a few tracks that are remixed or a different mix on this, so kind of interesting. I think maybe they're the original mix, and the band didn't approve of them, and they were remixed and officially released. A Rainbow Comp, Catch the Rainbow, the anthology, double disc anthology of Rainbow tracks. Spock's Beard, Beware of Darkness, kind of a neo-prog band, one of the newer prog bands. Marillion, Brave, this is the 2 CD remaster, so it's got all kinds of bonus tracks in the second CD, which is really cool. Kind of like Gary Moore, Marillion, after the original singer Fish left, I kind of lost track of what they were doing, and then I remember picking up this album Brave on CD, the original issue of it, used, and really liked it, and it got me back into the band. Really good album. And then Genesis, the self-titled one from the early 80s here. And let's see, I think the day I picked those up, one of my trips to the Humane Society, I ran to a guy, Ted, a friend here in town, who used to own a record store, and he was telling me he'd just been to the Goodwill, and they had a bunch of new CDs in, and he picked up some interesting jazz stuff, and I was kind of bummed, because I thought, well, he knows his jazz, he got all the good jazz stuff, but I ran by there anyhow, and a ton of classic rock type stuff, which isn't his bag, so picked up 10 CDs for $3, so 30 cents a piece. Really good deal. Got Rush, Hold Your Fire. Really good album. Rush, Show of Hands. This is a live recording from the Hold Your Fire tour. I actually went and saw them live in Lakeland, Florida on this tour. Really cool. Great show. Rush, classic Rush here, 2112. More Marillion, Misplaced Childhood. Got this on vinyl, but cool to have it on CD. This is the original CD issue. It's not the double CD with the bonus tracks. Same thing, Fugazi, original early CD issue on this. Zeppelin 1, early CD pressing. And Zeppelin 2. Nothing fancy here, no remastering. I think these are Barry Diamont did the CD masterings on these. Genesis Live, The Way We Walk. This is Volume 2, The Longs. Yeah, so you got the kind of the instrumental tracks, Dance on a Volcano, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, The Musical Box, Firth of Fifth, I Know What I Like, Domino, Home by the Sea, Second Home by the Sea, all that kind of good stuff. Van Halen, 1984, classic album. U2, War. This is, I've been picking up all these old U2 ones. This is one I didn't have. And finally, Scorpions, Love Drive. Some old Scorpions here. And then finally, the last one on the show, Second and Charles, is in the one day and just digging through the CDs, and this was like $5, but it's one of these Verve Master Edition or Elite Edition, Master Edition they call it. Really nicely packaged, little digipack here, cardboard pack, nice graphics and everything. But this is Bill Evans' Conversations with Myself. It's just him playing piano, and but it's like 2 or even 3 tracks overdubbed together, so really interesting. But nice little package here. So yeah, that's kind of it. Catching up, stuff from the past month I've managed to pick up, and yeah, just trying to get caught up here. But you know, feeling better, kind of getting my act together, feeling healthier. Actually lost a few pounds from the whole medical fiasco there, and hoping to keep those pounds off. But yeah, I'll keep you all updated with some new stuff. Yeah, glad to be in the new year. See y'all later.